Hello and welcome to FinTech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Brian Bohr, CEO of Advisor CRM. I'm going to give you one guess as to what it is they do. If there's a more bang-on explanatory name in the industry when it comes to CRMs for Advisor, I've yet to find it. And with that, here's my interview with Ryan. Ryan, thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So Ryan Bohr of the aptly named Advisor CRM, tell us about Advisor CRM.
Yeah, it's funny. The name is interesting. CRM obviously is a big topic of discussion, so we can get into that. But Advisor CRM is really just focused on turning signals into action. We're focused primarily on financial professionals, insurance professionals, and their teams, really trying to help them surface what matters. So we're just really trying to simplify the whole process of the quote unquote CRM world, if you will.
Let's talk about the origin of the company. When did you come to be and why? What was the hole in the market that you saw the opportunity around?
Yeah, before I started Advisor CRM, I was running, I founded a TAMP or an aggregator, whatever you'd like to call it. So started that, built that up over a period of time, and then divested and sold my shares in 24, I believe. We built up our own proprietary tech to really help streamline, because obviously margins in that space are tight. So we built tech to really help manage and build some efficiencies within our team to really streamline that. When we did that, we saw a gap in our system, which was the CRM, but we thought it was much bigger than that. Didn't realize how much bigger it was, but we decided, myself and co-partners divested and then bought the tech and licensed it back to that firm. And we started building Advisor CRM really the second that we left there.
So there we go. It's another homegrown, like so many other solutions in this space. Okay. You basically built a solution that was purpose-built that you found was filling a gap that you thought was a larger market opportunity, not unusual, common flow. What were those gaps? What were those jobs to be done that you felt were not being done properly by the current options that existed in the marketplace?
It was really a combination of things. I think a lot of it just had to do with the environment that we were coming from. So we built our own proprietary portfolio management system at the TAMP. So everything from trading, billing, servicing, et cetera. One thing we never got involved with was the CRM because we thought it was a commoditized market. So we didn't get involved. We figured, hey, everybody can use their own plug-in and we'll go from there, which worked in theory, but there was a lot of different data points that we were missing that could have streamlined so many things. Granted, we didn't have all the tools and technology today that we did 10 years ago. It sounded longer than that when we were building this, but we did see a bigger opportunity. And so that's kind of why we started building it. Again, it's really about, we view CRM a little differently. I think everybody puts CRM in a box, like a software box, and we don't think.
Let's take a step back. It depends. The reality, honest truth is most advisors or most people in general, the biggest use case is digital Rolodex, right? It's basically numbers, identity, and maybe notes, even though before note takers came along, I'd say the proficiency of that use case was lower than it should be. And then you have a long tail of other use cases, integrations, and things that happened. So like, I'd say the question becomes, again, back to the question of what jobs to be done. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So what jobs to be done? Again, I'll take things more from an operational approach because we're operations people. We built an operational platform before. And so it was really just creating some different efficiencies within the daily lives of the practices that we served. And it all started with gathering. I think the main thing was just gathering different data points and streamlining how we get those data points. And a lot of those different tasks and functions were done on a daily basis within the advisor's practice. Again, simple things like, hey, when we're meeting with clients, do we have a process about going through that? How do we document it? How do we get those little data points that could answer some questions down the road? There's a number of different areas, but I think the primary thing was data gathering is what we saw, and we didn't think it was done. The biggest problem that we saw with it is a lot of the softwares had this, and I don't like the term, but I'm going to use it, the workflow. And you would use that workflow, but if you take one step outside of it, or if one person is not in the office that day, that workflow would crumble. And so we saw a gap there. And the problem with that gap, and it just depends on the process, right? We could talk about trading, we could talk about billing, onboarding, whatever it is. There's various data points that are missed that could really streamline things down the road. But not only that, those data points could help solve some problems down the road as well. So it was really data gathering, and there's a few other aspects of it as well that we saw. But the other thing was that when we were looking at it, it's different now, obviously, but I think everyone's coming at it from a little different angle. There was really a few legacy players in the space, maybe a few smaller ones. And then you obviously had your CRMs that weren't really for financial services, and we can talk about those all day long too. But so we saw it as an opportunity in that regard to bring something to market that was really simple, easy to use, but also scalable in the sense that if you don't want to use the out of the box solution, you don't have to.
Yeah. We can name names. No one's being mean here, but you had the likes of Redtail and Wealthbox in the space. And further up, you had on the other end of the spectrum, you had the likes of Salesforce, of course. But yeah, there's definitely incumbent players. But what you're going fundamentally back to is when you're an add-on to CRMs, you're behooving to their data model in many cases. And some of those are more flexible than others. And if there's data that's important to you in your practice or to your workflow that's not necessarily stewarded in a certain way in the CRM, that can be a real friction or bottleneck. Was that, I guess, the key point you were encountering around data?
That was probably one of the key points. Yes. And again, it's that. And then there's also just every firm is different. Every practice is different. There's a consistency of data, and everybody's talking about data and managing your data. And that's going to be a problem for a long time, obviously, because everybody handles different things in different ways. The nail on the head there.
The old, we can only do everything in a standard way. But by the way, I want it to be my standard way. When I had Brian McLaughlin on a while back, and we were talking about one of the questions at the end, I always ask, and he said, if we could just decide on what the word household means, that would be great.
Yeah.
And
How
it's
do we
true.
find household?
Yeah, maybe it doesn't mean reporting group, billing group, mailing group. It's actual people who live together, people in a family that's extended. Like the number of permutations around this is just nuts. And a term as simple as household. Okay, so the data issue, you basically want to take control of that and make sure that you can actually make the most of it, fully understand that. Talk to me about what else there was. Like, so you got that. Now that you have the data, when you stewarded that data that was necessary, that would obviously empower your workflows in a more meaningful way, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
When you went around designing this, what was the kind of design thinking around this? Was it you didn't start from a CRM perspective, you started from a workflow perspective. How did that inform your design of the product itself?
Yeah. So we definitely started and looked there. And we had a lot of discussions of what my partner and I like to do is we like to just deconstruct everything and start at square one. And we'll use the analogy of Legos, right? You build something once, you tear it down, you build it back a second time. It's usually a little better and you do it a little faster and you learn some things along the way. So we deconstruct everything and just say, hey, are we looking at this the right way? And just remove ourselves from the industry and think, is this the right path? So I don't know. Do you remember a CRM called Highrise?
Vaguely.
Yeah. So it was 37 Signals Basecamp. That was their CRM that they used to
Yeah.
sell and maintain. And I absolutely loved it. The simplicity of it was just amazing because you were able to use that and really tailor it to what you were doing. And again, the beauty of it was simplicity because anybody could use it in any number of ways that kind of fit how your model works, accomplishing the main goal. Now, that being said, it didn't have everything in it. And so it's like, there's no calendar and there's basic things like that. So we kind of had a long discussion in the design. I guess the long answer to the question is we modeled it after Highrise because we were both big fans of Highrise and just how it worked. And we wanted to make sure that when we turned it on, it did what it was supposed to do. So we had a couple different themes that we were going with there, but we really wanted to be simple, easy to use, easy to understand. And we based it off of Highrise, which we thought then would tie in really well to building efficient workflows or allowing advisors to manage those in a way that made sense for their firm.
Yeah. Okay. You had a nice model to follow, but one that was you then bespoke built around this industry. Okay. You talk about, of course, you started building this before the innovation that is the large language world model and the craziness we're living through where a small announcement could sink like 30% of a market cap of a company. How have you adapted to the new frontier that is artificial intelligence?
Yeah. I think we've adapted really well. For starters, we're really good listeners. We're pretty humble too. We're not afraid to say that we're wrong about something. In fact, we could probably talk about a couple of things on that front that we learned along the way as we were building this. But one thing that our viewpoint has always been that I think, especially like, there's this big search for this all-in-one, and sometimes we got thrown into that. And I don't like that, but I think all-in-one is
Once again, everybody wants an all-in-one.
correct, and we're looking for the holy grail there.
But no one thing is like to say.
It's just we've changed our viewpoint a little bit, but how we're going to implement a lot. And that is, we think eventually, and it's become more and more apparent too, advisors, and we're a big believer in advisors should own a part of the tech stack. because the CRM is more of an ecosystem. We don't view it as one out of the box software. You hit on it and touched on it earlier. Hey, it's a digital Rolodex. Yeah, that's one part of your client relationship management. And you can even take a step back and say, is this client relationship management or contact relationship management? Because there's a difference there too. You treat your clients, you're going to manage your clients differently than you will versus your contacts, which can include prospects and everything like that. So CRM in our viewpoint is just one ecosystem, which contains a number of different data sources or softwares. And so we think the future is going to lead to a great number of advisors owning a part of the tech stack because of what you just said a minute ago. Everybody has their own process on how they do certain aspects. Maybe it's their financial planning process. Maybe it's the way they gather risk information. Maybe it's, who knows, but there's no reason why they can't put some of that together with the help of professionals, or maybe they have team members that can do it, but you still have to get that into a centralized component that can translate all that data and make that data efficiently available to the rest of that ecosystem, if you will.
This is interesting, an interesting part of the conversation, because as someone who spends a fair amount of time these days, trying to vibe code solutions for everything from small point solutions for his company to something more overarching and that's handling data and workflow. This is topical. This is a new frontier where, frankly, companies are going to wake up to the fact that, or as they hire younger people who get used to this sort of thing, where basically it's no longer necessarily looking for 12 different vendors for something small. It is, hey, we can literally put this into an LLM, validate what we're putting in, validate what's coming out, make sure it works, and then use that tool going forward. And then it becomes a question of how do we integrate this into a workflow to be productive? I'm with you. I think that there absolutely is going to be a stewardship or in-housing of a lot of technology in the next little while. And what you're saying is to position yourself accordingly for that. What you've done is effectively you're looking to service that model to some degree, but do it almost as a source of truth and an enablement tool. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that, so there's a couple reasons why we're doing that, why we're looking at it that way too. Even just to touch on one point, like you said, one thing I should have mentioned was, yeah, there's a lot of advisors who own part of the tech stack and either bring team members on who will know how to do some of that. Again, it's really just a math exercise, right? How much time do you have to put into figuring that out? Not only for the build, but also to maintain, because you and I both know that there's going to be issues that come up and you have to be prepared to maintain it. So it's not going to make sense for all firms. That being said, we're still sticking with our original model. We've changed how we're approaching it a little bit, which is, hey, we're going to have this baseline CRM, Advisor CRM. It's going to be very simple, easy to use. It's going to have some components in it, more operationally focused, service focused, can aggregate data from custodians, can aggregate and pull in your data from your email clients and various Zoom, you name it. It can pull it all in there, translate all that so it's useful across the whole CRM ecosystem. You can use it out of the box. If you want, you can just use the feed, either our MCP. We announced, I think it was over a year ago, we have our MCP server up, live, running. We have APIs up, live, running, so people can build and their own solutions right off of that or integrate it with that to connect to other sources. And the other part is that we do fully think and believe that there's going to be solutions where it's going to be tough to replicate. This week or beginning of next, we're going to be rolling out, it's called Trove. So troveadvisor.com, which is pure opportunity / AI intelligence for opportunities within an advisor's book. So surfacing what matters now. And that's something we've been working on for almost a year. So it's been something that we're pretty
So
passionate.
you're providing the end utility of the AI, the LLM use case versus actually making that a product.
Yep.
Yep. It's something to say, congratulations, you can do this for yourself. You can do it pretty quickly. You can do it pretty effectively, but you also have to spend some time and energy and effort maintaining it. It's something else to say, just do it for me. And that's, I think that too many people are over indexing on the first use case.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm seeing things pop up now. And again, it's been a fun road to be on. We've learned a lot. Everybody's learning a lot. Something new is being thrown out literally every single day. Like you said, it's crazy, but it is interesting seeing things pop up, different softwares pop up, and just hearing how they're marketing things, seeing how they're pricing different things. And you're like, there's no way. Let's get.
I had this discussion with another company earlier today who's doing something in the marketing space and the AI, it's an AI tool. And he's like, can you tell me how I should price this thing? I'm like, good luck to you right now. You just got to look at, I think also I said in that conversation that SaaS companies got a little bit too reachy in the past. They basically were like, oh, we're selling these licenses. We're creating all this value. How do we value-based priced to basically capture more of the value we deliver. And, oh, so you want to encroach upon my profitability more is what you're trying to tell me, right?
Yes.
And now a lot of that's being threatened. So I think they're getting a little smarter about not going that way. But I said to the guy, like, you get the pricing comes down to the alternative, right? Legitimately, if you are replacing the equivalent of a team of 20 people replacing one full-time equivalent, discount, I better be below that price. It better be, because that person provides other utility beyond the one full-time equivalent.
Yep. And that stuff is tricky too, because again, especially with AI, so we're out of alpha on Trove, we're in beta, and we're going to do limited release in April, mid-April, late April. But on to that point, pricing, especially with AI, if you do it correctly, it should be an orchestration layer. Then you have your sub agents, whatever different layers you want in there. But if you're truly building it the right way, you're still guessing with the advisors and how they're going to use it. So you can't just say, hey, here's my fixed number. So we're rolling out one pricing and we're slowly going to taper it. So I think
welcome for the real problem is that in a world where you're priced based on effort and the amount of compute, pricing at a flat monthly fee, wow, that is a lot of business risk or a lot of, I mean, you misprice that, suddenly you're bankrupt, right? That's one direction. You misprice it the other way, and people just keep on getting the sorry, come back later, and because you're out of credits for right now. And yeah, that works to some degree in the LLM space. It doesn't work in a financial advisory firm where I'm working between certain hours. Like, my technology better be running at that time. It's like, oh, I used up all my credits for this time. I got jobs to be done. I need this to work. Oh man, it is. I think, can't remember which VC legend said it, that pricing's the hardest thing. You're probably gonna get it wrong the first time. Never has that been more relevant than now.
Yeah, 100%. I think people are rushing to get these things out there, and we're being very cautious with it because we know you got to nail that down. And that advice actually came from an advisor, one of the people who we're working with in beta.
No one wants their pricing changing every month. But it's so different because in the SaaS world, you build and then you go sell it, and every incremental sale had very little marginal cost attached to it, right? Now, all the marginal cost is shifted to the incremental actual touching of the software. And so it's as if I'm paying a tax every time I open Salesforce to some degree, right? That is a different world that we're just not used to.
Yeah. Yep. The whole usage.
Yeah. All right. We talked about where you came from. We talked about where you are. Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit. And like I said, the CRM is an ecosystem. We think advisors are going to own part of the tech stack. And that's what we've really been building pretty heavily. We invested early on in our MCP tools because we knew that was going to be, we knew that's where everything was going to head. Didn't know what it was going to look like. So we figured, hey, let's get this tool in place and then let's see what developments happen and whatnot. But I firmly believe in what I said earlier. I think the future is going to be a lot of softwares that are going to have some issues. I think there's a lot that are being rushed to market that aren't really building or engineering true AI solutions. They're just plugging onto an LLM, and that's going to cause some problems down the road from a compliance standpoint, security standpoint. But I think ultimately what's going to happen is, like I said, I think the future is going to be, there's a number of firms that will start owning a part of their own tech stack. And I think it should be that way. I think the advisors should own their data. I think the advisors should be in control of some of that because it's their business.
I think custodians. So yeah, no, I really get amused when people try to tell me what the world's going to look like in 5 years when it comes to this stuff. I'm just like, come on, man, we have no clue. It's so hard to tell right now.
I agree with you. I don't know what's going to look, but I can tell you, I think that's where it's going to be headed because we have several groups right now. We're about to cross the finish line on our first development for a pretty good sized RA using the API and MCP tool. And we were a little surprised, but the second we started talking about that is what we thought was going to happen in the future. Sure enough, there's a number of people who want that and it's within reach. I think it's only going to get better. And I think you just really need a structure. If you're in this space, fintech space, I think if you're certain categories, I think you really need to be thinking about that, how you're going to prepare for that.
There's legitimately, as I like to tell people, there's legitimately no mode here. Whatever you spun up today can be spun up faster by someone else tomorrow because you showed them how, and they're using newer tech because the models are improving that fast. It's a challenging time, but yeah, I think there are certain things we can rest our head on to say these aren't going away, and that's that A, data is 100% necessary. B, work will exist. So workflows are necessary. Workflows are exactly what jobs would get done. So how do we facilitate that as much as possible? And the underlying core needs we're trying to solve for people are not going away. Not much else we can hold on to in this world right now other than that.
Yeah. I think the workflow will change though, and it should, because it doesn't have to always be process 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's where we think there's going to be some change. I think there's a much more efficient way of doing it. We were doing that at my previous firm. We had built some stuff that helped with that, and that's where it started.
All right. 3 questions to end this on a positive note for you. First one is, if you had one wish for something to change in your company or the industry as a whole, what would it be?
Wow.
There's
That's a
something.
good one.
Yeah.
I wish everybody realized that, hey, this is a big business and a big industry, and there's plenty of opportunity for a lot of folks to work together to solve some problems. I feel like I would like to eliminate some of the silos. I think that'd be great. At the same time, I'm a little conflicted because those silos, they help.
Silos are friction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. And this is the problem, is that the silos partially exist because they have been frictions in ways for people to not leave where they are. And then the second question I have for you is, what's been the biggest challenge in the company to where it is today?
This one, it was a lot different than building the last firm. And I think we had a very specific plan and vision early on. And the biggest challenge, I think, has been that trying to stay the course with the original vision, but still being able to adapt to what's happening. And again, a lot of that does have to do with everything that's becoming available to us. It does make it challenging though, because you want to stay focused, obviously, on your goal and your mission. But I think that is a little more challenging today, just given the environment and everything that's happening.
It's hard not to get distracted by all the noise and all the questioning of what you're doing about this. And it's really hard to know that, as many companies have found, that their core value and function suddenly gets made a command in an AI console, right? Again, the degree to which we are handling many complex problems is not going to be a simple prompt. Anyone who wants to argue with me about that needs to understand how these systems work. And the last question for you today is, what excites you about what it is you're working on and keeps you getting out of bed in the morning to fight the good fight?
I'm super excited about Trove. The opportunity intelligence, I think, is going to be a massive play for us and for advisors and their teams. It's just so neat because there isn't that opportunity software out there. So I know there's people starting to try and get that out. Like I said, we're going to be in beta. We're in beta, we're on an alpha in beta, and we're adding more to our beta. And that's what just gets me excited, because it's new. It's something that's exciting. I like building. I like problem solving. I get to work with advisors that I really enjoy working with and trust. And it's just fun because we're all on the same page. We're all trying to solve this challenge and getting feedback and just building something that hasn't been built yet. So that's what it is right now that gets me really excited and keeps me going at the pace I'm going.
Honestly, even if it was my full-time job, I think it would be hard to keep up with it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ryan, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
So that was my interview with Ryan Bohr of Advisor CRM. If you were an advisor in the market for a new CRM that specifically is geared around thinking through, or should I say, supporting your workflow and enabling and empowering your tech stack within your own parameters, take the time to take a look at Advisor CRM. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or wherever your podcast. Until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.